Hello ladies and gentlemen, Willie here. So Blizzard said news for Fresh Classic was going to come soon, and it turns out that soon meant, well, very soon. The first Fresh Realms will be hitting the open beta on October 5th. Open, so you shouldn't even need a sub to play if you really want to. And what they have put out seems to be loosely based off the survey that they sent out some time ago. I'm going to be going through the changes and going into a bit of detail on each one and saying what I think about them and what they will mean for the game. I don't just want it to be a copy paste of me reading something that you could. Not surprised that the idea of seasonal servers has taken hold. This is Blizzard's proper go at getting the private server community on board permanently, essentially. They picked up Holly Longdale from EverQuest over 1 year ago now, and that game has been living on seasonals for a long time. Private servers, I'd say, have proven that people will come back for a fresh whatever you think about the game, so we're going to see how long Blizzard can keep this ball rolling. Nevertheless, I feel that it's important that Blizzard let players know what they're getting themselves into in the long term. What happens to the characters after the season has concluded and Nax has been on farm for several months? Do we get live game rewards, tabards, titles like in other seasonal games? Do the characters merge into classic era? What's going on there? Some info would be good. One more thing before we start. Obviously, these servers are seasonal. I like some of the changes. I don't like some of the changes. The whole I don't trust Blizzard to make changes thing in the first place to classes or raids seems to be a bit out of the window with seasonal servers, to be honest. What are they going to do? Balance your class? I'd be fine if they really did go all out to change things. No, not in terms of WoW token or things on the store, but gameplay wise, considerably, like a lot. At the end of the day, whatever they do, there's always going to be a next season, presumably, if it goes well. So with all that said, let's have a look at what the hashtag slightly more changes servers will look like. They still have 6 phases as it was in Classic. However, the Honor and Battlegrounds will be in Phase 1, up from Phase 3 and 4. Well, it was more really like Phase 2.5 when Warsong and AV came out, because they brought them out early as well. PvP was tearing servers apart. Arathi Basin was Phase 4 though. So all Battlegrounds on launch and a real incentive to go and PvP out to us leveling. Cool stuff. PvP server things, wonder how populated they will be this time, and you've got to know what you're going to be getting yourself into this time around. All of the phase content rollout is the same unless they randomly decide to change it. Notably, they say we're planning for a 12-month cadence with phases unlocking roughly every couple months. Interesting. I don't think this is too short, it's just certain phases need to be longer or shorter based on what content is within it, because at a glance, 6 phases, 12-month release schedule, 2 months per phase. There's absolutely no way that is going to happen. Also, I read it as all the content is out by 12 months, not the server is wrapped up and done by 12 months. So maybe Nax would launch around month 11 or 12. I think you could have a 3-1-3-1 kind of release schedule. So you have launch with MC and Elixir lasting 3 months, Phase 2, which has some world bosses and Diamol, only 1 month. Phase 3, which would have Tier 2 being 3 months. Phase 4, ZG and Green Dragons 1 month, and so on. And then by the time Nax is out, that'll be month 11, and that goes on for however long, and then server concludes. Also, it's just worth a general note that PvP gear will be available from day 1, on top of a faster content release schedule, so less time to farm out your bis from raids. PvP gear is incredibly powerful early on, and it just got even better, and it's going to feel really mandatory if you are a competitive player. The rank 14 gear in Phase 1 is absolutely off the charts good. And again, PvP servers between queues, assuming queues, I wonder how many people are going to go Alliance this time around. There's going to be a lot going on in the open world, put it like that. Moving on, raid content is being buffed, another widely asked for thing, including, you guessed it, no world buffs. It's happening. Say goodbye to that headache. And I'm seeing a lot of people who are getting nostalgic, I guess, of world buffs now. And there's no way you can convince me anybody saying that did not play a warrior in Classic, whose raid experience was holding down the W key and gluing heroic strike to the keyboard. For real though, I get it. It was a different level of challenge as you had to live and execute, quite literally, raids very cleanly, and this change alone is going to put a lot of hardcore players off from the game. But if raid tuning happens to a point where fights are designed to be tougher, that just doesn't work when your raid can be about 30% stronger because world buffs. The Chrono Boon at the end of Classic was good, as it skipped the need to raid log excessively and cut down on griefing, but it didn't do anything to address the in-raid power that world buffs bring. There have been some servers, which I have heard of in the past, that disabled world buffs for a few weeks on a new raid launch, so you could progress at the intended level of difficulty, then a little while later you turn them on so people can pass and just mess about once it's on farm. Perhaps a mix of this ideology and the Chronoboon could be good for both parties and allow everybody to have some fun. Blizzard say they'll be restoring mechanics that were removed early on to some raid bosses. Now, I had to go back and have a look because I remember during the early days of Classic when people started hopping into raids and finding out that it was very easy. It was pinned pretty much entirely on two things: our talents, which have been updated, and our itemization. I was playing on 1.12 essentially. Never did I hear the difficulty was being attributed to raid bosses having mechanics removed. I went through every raid and every single raid boss to see what kind of patch notes there were, and there's very little, and what there is extremely vague. Here's a few that I found. The Golemag and Shazra encounters in MC has undergone some changes in patch 1.4. Need any more detail on that? Nope, me neither. Okay, moving on. The eruptions in Rag's fight were basically nerfed in 1.5. The Razor Gore encounter has been changed to make the trash less random. There is no 1 hour restriction on the Veilstraz the Corrupt encounter in Blackwing Lair in patch 1.8. Fixed erratic taunt behavior on Firemore. This also goes for the two other Drake bosses. The Oro hotfixes, where basically everything he does was nerfed. There were no patch notes whatsoever on Cthulhu or anything in Nax at all, so yeah, I don't really know what this means. We'll have to wait and see. They also say there'll be no boss debuff limit. Now, originally in WoW Vanilla, it started off as 8 debuff slots, went up to 16 in the ZG patch, and we launched with Classic on 16. Completely removing the debuff limit is the placebo, finally my Boomkin will be a good DPS for a change. I mean, it's a minor DPS upgrade for some classes, that's about it. The DPS meta is still going to be Warrior, Rogue, Mage, other DPS, and then a lot more further behind the hybrid DPS. This doesn't change without world buffs either. Increasing boss health to offset player buffs and the removed debuff limit, again, doesn't really help hybrids as they're going to be going in longer fights. And it gives more execute time for the best DPS in the game. I'm not overly a fan of making something harder by just increasing its health either. Whenever I think of this, the example of Oblivion comes to mind, the single player game, and you can either get one hit by a scamp's fireball or be a literal death god that just lasers everything off the face of the earth. Some bosses are good with more health. It makes sense to increase their difficulty level, and it works as a buffer. Maybe we're actually going to be seeing phase 2 of Ragnaros, the mythic submerge phase. And gear check bosses have always been a thing. If you had a bigger health pool on Patchwork, you'd have a longer range at 5%, which could be very scary and snowball out of control. But not every boss does that or has sort of timing based mechanics where actually increasing their health does anything. You could double the health of most of the bosses in Classic, and they're not even remotely dangerous. The only issue is your healer's mana bars. Shamans are going to be some real thirsty boys in the Season of Mastery. What I'm saying is new mechanics would be more interesting than bigger health bar. Next up, faster leveling. They say our current plan is to set them close, that being leveling, to what the 160 XP rates are in BC Classic, with a bigger focus on quest XP increases. So at the moment in BC Classic, the amount of XP you need per level after 20 was reduced by about 15%, on top of quest XP being greatly buffed. Overall, it's about 30% faster to level. Close to 30%, so maybe 20 to 25% more XP from quests. Seems like quite a lot, and you're going to have a lot of leveling zones we get halfway through, and then it's beneficial to just leave it and move on. And you know how I feel about leveling. I like it. A lot of people don't though. I think the speed was fine and that it's an important part of the game. The average player was, what, about 6 to 7 days played? Take 25% off that, you're still looking at just over 5 days played to hit level cap. Also, we have a follow-up on the blue post on comments regarding mage boosting. They say we would like to make sure it's still viable to level alts in this accelerated time frame. With that in mind, we're planning to take a look at mage boosting in the beta for this release. We have some ideas for adjustments where we can make to reduce its impact, especially in hotspots such as Maradon. The proposed increased XP gains are focused entirely on quest XP. We don't have any plans to increase other sources of XP at this time. Well, that goes back on the original blue post where they said a bigger focus on quest XP to actually, yeah, it's all quest XP. But regarding them taking an interest in mage boosting at this point in time, good, big good. Please address mage boosting. The community's come up with many ideas. No XP if grouped with player X level higher, reduced XP, change how mob pathing works. This will be the ideal one as it could be put forward into every other seasonal as well. It may be the case that quest experience is so good that it's just way faster than boosts, but boosts always do have that convenience factor. It's just them also being faster is an added bonus. A lot of people take advantage of mage boost because they've leveled characters through Classic so many times, and frankly they'd rather stare at a wall in Mara for 6 hours while watching something on Netflix than running through STV for the dozenth time. This could also potentially affect instance farms for mages as well. Again, we'll have to see what they do. Often they come up with ideas which are sort of a mix of different things like the Chronoboon was. Moving on though, quality of life. Meeting stones are converted to summoning stones. Ha! Take that, Warlocks, and your niche utility, get back to pressing Curse of Wreck. This change plus no world buffs means summoning alts are nowhere near as good. What are they even used for now? World bosses? Is that about it? This is actually a change that makes Blizzard lose money. I know so many people who use multiple accounts, and no, you can't collect stones at any level. You need to be in the instance level range. There's going to be a lot less people traveling in the world now doing their shorter journey to 60, and I mean PvP server players on Burning Crusade at the moment who are in the minority faction. How's your summoning stone situation looking at the moment? I still like my idea of Warlocks being able to activate stones for a short period of time using shards, but oh well, there we go. Big time saver though for sure, no arguments there. Increased mining and herbalism nodes. Good change. Yeah, should have happened in Classic. No world buffs plus harder raids and much bigger servers, of course, means you need a lot more consumables. Not much to add there, good stuff. Finally, we look forward to hearing your feedback on these changes and many others as we continue to iterate on them. So think of this list of things we've just gone over here as the first pass. Honestly, I'd like to see them go all out on changes, as I mentioned earlier. If you want people to get to 60 so much faster, give them more to explore and learn at endgame regarding balancing for classes, instance content, PvP, just the whole thing. Full opinion of what the changes will end up looking like is kind of reserved until I see the final pass of what they end up releasing, but any start to this process is good because seasons are happening and it's one step closer to a newer game with a classic center, and the people who love Fresh are getting a Fresh, albeit sooner than expected. For me, at the moment, what I'm seeing, it's not different enough. I'm still actively raiding TBC and enjoying deforesting New World in the meantime. I think the whole idea of seasonals is something which I'd be up for giving a go, but in a few seasons time with more changes to the core gameplay and the endgame, and ideally not 6 months after Classic has just ended. Either way though, let me know your thoughts about the first look into this, whether you're excited for it at all. I might throw up a poll and see what people reckon as well. They're always fun to do. As always though guys, thank you all so much for watching and listening in. I shall see you all on the next one very soon.